I mean, if you're a player out there, you're anticipating, hey, did we make it in? And then once you figure out if you made it in, where you're going to, then it's business at hand. So there are a lot of young men right now, programs around the country, that are eagerly awaiting every word that comes off the mouth of Mr. Noqua.
Well, now that's a lot of pressure. Here's what you need to know. The field, again, is 20, not 16. It's the first time that's the case. 10 automatic qualifiers, 10 at-large berths. 4 first-round games begin next Saturday. So 12 teams don't play in the first round. 8 do. And for the first time, the championship game will be played in January again. That's in Frisco after 13 years in Chattanooga. Here are your 10 automatic qualifiers. No drama here. These teams know that they are in. And how about Montana State? Winners in Missoula over arch rival Montana. They win the Big Sky title and they are in. We'll show you if and where they are seeded nationally in just a moment. Appalachian State, of course, they won 3 straight championships from 05 to 07. So we know those teams are in. Now the drama begins as we start.
Drum roll.
Yeah. All right, here we go. The upper bracket here is we'll show you this. Western Illinois and Coastal Carolina. That is a first-round matchup there.
That's surprise number 1. Western Illinois getting in, even though they lost 4 games to FCS teams. That's a surprise there. They got in at large.
Yeah, that is their 9th appearance in the championship, their first in 7 years. And then you got North Dakota State and Robert Morris.
Yeah, take a look at North Dakota State. They lost last weekend to Missouri State this past weekend, 3-0. They lost 4 games as well, all to FCS opponents. I'm sure they're surprised that they made it in.
Yeah, certainly one of the last 1 or 2 teams in is Craig Bowles' Bison squad just getting in. They just made that transition 6 years ago from Division II to Division I football. So now you see that. That number 1 overall seed is the 3-time national champions from Appalachian State. They will host the winner of Coastal Carolina and Western Illinois. So they are off, and then they play their first game in Boone, North Carolina in the second round. Stephen F. Austin and Villanova will also face off in the second round. Villanova in as an at-large team after winning it all a year ago.
Yeah, defending champs at large lets you know the quality and the depth of this year's postseason game. It's going to be some fantastic games. But Nova, they had to win in order to get in. They got the job done.
No question. They won at Delaware on Saturday. Let's talk about Appalachian State, the number 1 overall seed. We remember they won this thing 3 years in a row. Or Monty Edwards led him to a win over Michigan. That may be what the more mainstream football fan knows about it. But this was a national power year in and year out.
I mean, traditionally, they always get it done. Head coach Jerry Moore has a squad. He's got a formula for success. Their 1 loss on the season came to Georgia Southern on the FCS level. That it all comes down to the quarterback, DeAndre Presley. If he's playing well, they can play with anybody out there. I think they got the number 1 overall seed more by default with Delaware losing on the final week of the season. Appalachian State elevated to the number 1 seed overall.
By the way, anybody who's wondering, well, they played at Florida yesterday and they got beat pretty handily by the Gators. We talked to the committee today. That does not play into this. I mean, now you can play an FBS team and it could help you, but we learned it can't hurt you.
Yeah, if you beat one of those teams, then you get what we like to call brownie points for beating those teams. But if you lose to one, we don't really get penalized on the FCS level for those type of losses there. They've got more scholarships on the FBS level there, but Appalachian State's a really good football team, and on any given Saturday, they can beat anybody. Florida beat them pretty good yesterday, but look for Appalachian State to cause some noise in the postseason.
Absolutely. So the Mountaineers are indeed the number 1 seed, and you see they won 3 national championships from 05 to 07. That is the most consecutive FCS national championships. Georgia Southern, Youngstown State, and actually Georgia Southern a few times with back-to-back championships. All right, let's continue our portion of our bracket, our field of 20. And we see now that Southeast Missouri State gets in. They will take on the 5th overall seed out of the Big Sky. That's Eastern Washington. Now, SEMO out of Cape Girardeau is in for the very first time. They are the Ohio Valley champs in Eastern Washington. Oh, we get to see the bright red turf in Cheney, Washington. I mean, bright red turf.
I mean, that's one of those games where it looks kind of cute. You know, don't adjust your TV or your monitor when you actually watch that game there. I think what's unique about that one is you're talking about Southeast Missouri. They're called the Red Hawks. And they're actually going to play the Eagles, and you might as well call Eastern Washington the Red Eagles. Don't adjust. That is the red turf. The Boise blue turf is more famous, but this is a newer version, call it that. The new and improved, the red turf there. That's going to be an interesting matchup, not just on the field, but on your eyes.
Oh, it's killing mine. You may have to finish this thing all by yourself.
And then they come out with the red jerseys to make it even more more of a red owl.
What is it about that northwest part of this great land of ours? By the way, we showed you also Montana State. They beat Montana in Missoula, and the Bobcats, with a big win and a big weekend, get the number 4 overall seed as Big Sky champions. All right, so still ahead, we'll reveal the other Walker.
Yeah, and that's an interesting one. We talked about the
Carolina State taking on Georgia Southern. Jay Walker.
Yeah, and that's an interesting one. We talked about the expansion of the program, going from 16 teams to 20 teams. Well, this is one I think they got right. 4 years ago, South Carolina State had back-to-back 9-2 seasons, did not get into the postseason. They expanded it to 20 teams. Now they come in at 9-2. They don't get the automatic qualifier from the MEAC Conference. That went to Bethune-Cookman, but yet the Bulldogs and Coach Buddy Pugh are still in after impressive performances in losing efforts against Appalachian State the past 2 seasons.
All right, so South Carolina State in. So the expansion, a very good thing for that squad as we continue to show you more teams in this field of 20 that will compete for the FCS National Championship. Let's look at the MEAC champions. That's Bethune-Cookman, and we'll show you them. They're going to host New Hampshire. The Wildcats against the Wildcats, UNH in for the 9th time at large out of the Colonial.
I hope New Hampshire is ready for the band. When you talk about Bethune-Cookman, you talk about a band that's got 400 members strong. They are a force to be reckoned with.
Delaware against the number 3 overall seed. And they will take on in the second round the winner of Lehigh and Northern Iowa. Time now to welcome in Delaware head football coach. It's going to be a second-round matchup. William and Mary gets the number 2 overall seed. By the way, they won the Colonial. That's no small feat. So they will host in the second round the winner of that South Carolina State-Georgia Southern matchup. You look at Jacksonville State, at-large team out of the Ohio Valley. Their first appearance since 2004, and they will host Wofford, who got an at-large bid out of the Southern Conference. But let's look at that number 2 overall seed. So Delaware's the 3, App State's the 1, William and Mary's the 2. How dangerous is that tribe?
Anytime that you're the automatic qualifier from what many people believe to be the toughest conference in all of FCS football, talking about the CAA or the Colonial Athletic Association, you know they got to be a pretty good team. And for them, they get it done with Mike and Mike at quarterback. Mike Paulus transfer from the University of North Carolina, and Mike Callahan, they're the dual threats at quarterback, using 2 quarterbacks, and their running back, Jonathan Grimes, a junior, he's a key. When he's running the football well, they've got a chance to win. And anytime you're talking about postseason, it all starts in the trenches at the line of scrimmage. If you can run the football, you can win.
And these the 1 seed, quite possibly in Appalachian State. When you look at Villanova, what strikes you the most, Jay?
I mean, obviously the experience. You know, this is the team that many people thought cruised throughout the regular season, just assuming they would get in the postseason play. Well, they had to win this last game against Delaware in order to get in. And when you talk to some of the coaches around the conference, they say, you know what? This team is good. The experience they had from last year is going to pay off in this year's postseason play. They also feel that they've got one of the best offensive linemen in the country. He's going to be probably the highest draft pick from the FCS level, left tackle Ben Ajalana. So this is a team that has all the makings to make a repeat run, even though that 7-4 record doesn't look too good on paper. You talk to coaches around the league and around the country, they say Villanova's good. They're very good.
Here's what you need to know about Villanova, the defending FCS national champs. Cats 7-4 this season, and really on the bubble before coming up with that huge road win at number 1 Delaware Saturday. That was an overtime game. Quarterback Chris Whitney has passed and rushed for 27 touchdowns this season.
They got to be careful that first round matchup they've got when they take on Stephen F. Austin. If Stephen F. Austin does nothing else, they can score points. They average 37 points per game, most of that coming by way of the pass.
Frisco, Texas at Pizza Hut Park. January 7th. It's the first time the championship's been played the following year. It's the first time after 13 years in Chattanooga that it is in Frisco, Texas. All right.
Hope the weather's warmer there, too.
Right.
You're going from Chattanooga to Texas. Hopefully you'll have a warm weather championship game.
No question about that. And they said the opportunity, we talked to the committee, they said the opportunity that Frisco presented was really just too good to pass up. By the way, everything in Frisco is brand new, and I'm sure that Pizza Hut Park is brand new, too. All right. Where there's 20 in, there are bound to be at least 2, 3, 4, 5 that are not happy but that they are left out. Who perhaps has the biggest case? Who's left out?
Well, I mean, anytime you've got 10 and They average over 40 points per game. They're sitting at home. What do they have to do to get in there? And then you take a look at Montana at 7-4. I mean, can't be postseason football without the Grizzlies in there. They've been in for 17 years in a row. This year they got 7 wins, but only 6 of those wins came against FCS opponents, so they weren't really eligible, even though there's no requirement standards. So that's a tough one. But I just can't think of postseason football FCS without Montana and the scenery and the sights, Dari.
Yeah, it's one of the best football atmospheres I've ever. I lived in Montana for 2 years and got to go to many a game in Missoula, and I can assure you that folks around Bozeman, the Montana State supporters, knowing that they may have knocked Montana right out, they're probably jumping for a little bit of joy right now, too. So good for Montana State there. Yes. All right, sleepers. Give me 1 or 2. Who are we looking at that may make a little surprise run in this? Well,
you know, I alluded to it earlier. I mean, running the football is great, but anytime you can throw the football, then you've got a chance at winning. It doesn't matter how much you fall behind. In this case, I think it's Stephen F. Austin. I mean, Stephen F. Austin, the guys from Texas, they're tough. They've got senior leadership at the quarterback position. You talk about Jerry Moss there. He throws for over 330 yards per game with Cordell Robinson, the wide receiver as well. So they've got talent on the edges and the perimeter. They can throw the football, they can score, and plus they're playing, you know, we talked about earlier, they're the team from Texas, showing a little Texas pride, so they want to try and play in the championship game in the state of Texas.
In Texas, no
Watch
question.
out for Stephen F.
All right, when you look at we've got 4 first-round games. Again, 12 teams do not play this coming Saturday, but 8 do, so we'll go from 20 to 16 teams when that's all said and done. Whether it's one of those matchups or a second-round matchup, what are a couple of early games to watch?
I think the story here is when they expanded from 16 to 20 teams, many people thought those extra 4 teams getting in were going to automatically go to the CAA. It didn't happen. You've got 3 teams from the Missouri Valley Conference playing on the opening weekend, talking about Northern State. I mean, what a great story that's been. The fact that they play their crosstown rival, they knock them, they not only beat them, they knock them out of postseason play. That's a great story for the Bobcats.
No question about it. One more time, I want to show you the field of 20. We will start with the upper half of the bracket here for the 2010 Division I Football Championship. Western Illinois, Coastal Carolina. That is a first-round game. Appalachian State, the #1 overall seed. Villanova trying to repeat. They do have a first Cheney. And then here is the lower half of the bracket.
Yeah, you're looking at that lower half. Georgia Southern got in at 7-4.